Okay, we will call the meeting to order for the December 12th Board of Directors meeting for the Lake Lemon Conservancy District. We'll have public comment first. So as always, try to limit your remarks to 3 minutes. So if anybody would like to make comments, please step to the podium, tell us what district you're in if you know it, and we'll vote your comments. Okay, no one wishes to comment. We will move on to the next item, which is the approval of the board meeting minutes from October 24th. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve those, or were there any edits or changes?
I have to abstain, but I did try to, you didn't send a link. Was that because it was the approval of the budget? I sent you an email to send me a link.
For the Zoom meeting?
That, yes.
I thought I had sent that. I'll have to.
Yeah, please go back and look and,
Okay.
and let me know why. We had a great conversation about the barge, the Lake Enhancement Fund. I got a hold of that gal. And so I said, hey, I would like to attend by Zoom, but I never got the link. But I had to abstain because I did not attend.
Yeah, I'll be abstaining as well because I was.
As will I. So it's all on you. It's all on you, Brett. Motion,
I don't know how that works if you don't have.
Well, Steve or whoever's on Zoom can.
Yeah, I guess we still have that. Yeah. Motion, Steve, would you like to second that?
Yes, I'll second that.
I guess the ayes will just be Brett and Steve.
We can still we just can't vote. We can still, say that we approve of it, but we were not here, so. As a matter of fact, there was something, is Michael Klitzing on there?
No.
Oh, okay. I did watch it and I heard him say something to Debbie. She said, well, he's a fireman. And I don't know what else was said. The acoustics, they're not that good, which is why I'm going to bring up later why we don't use the Boys and Girls Club or something different, but that's for later conversation. So to help you out, Les, the ayes have it and there's no abstention.
Okay, let's move on. So noted. We will have the treasurer's report. Deb is not here, so Adam will fill in for her.
Right. So we have the October and November financial highlights and report of claims. First, I'll go through the October. In October, it was a pretty low expenditure month. We had total expenses of $47,361. 16,000 of that was disposal site prep. We trucked out a little over 300 triaxles from the Possum Trot site on North Shore to make sure that we have room for upcoming private dredging. And then we also had a $9,000 insurance bill.
can I ask where that dirt goes?
That stuff we trucked down to Kenny Clark's site because he's able to get rid of that pretty quickly. So.
Well, that's why we're gonna have to pay him $1,000.
We've been doing the 1,000 a year for a bit now, but yeah. So, and he gets rid of that pretty nice. So we trucked out, I think just over 300 triaxles.
300 triaxles.
Yeah, we got out in about a week and a half. So
I guess we'll see. What company did we use?
we used Nate Anderson, who has the mowing contract. He brought his excavator out there and set up, and then I believe it was Naylor Trucking did the actual trucking. So he didn't charge us anything for the trucking. That was just a straight bill from trucking and then loading dirt. So it's pretty nice to have that. And then in the springtime, assuming we don't have freezing weather in like January, February, we'd like to go back and do that again and make sure we have enough material out of there so we can continue to do private dredging.
That was the Possum Trot site?
Correct. Yeah, on North Shore there.
Okay.
So those are the biggest expenses from October. When I do the actual account and stuff, I can do that in November. As far as the reported claims, approval of vouchers for October, total expenditures were $40,000. Again, kind of general operating expenditures, the $9,200 for first insurance, and then $16,000 for Anderson excavating. Are there any questions on those vouchers?
October and November?
This is just October.
For October and November, why aren't we writing a check for the electric bill? I mean, that's always been on Visa. Do they send us a bill?
It's on there. It says electric.
But that's on your Visa.
They do an automatic withdrawal.
Okay.
On that, yeah.
All right.
So they don't, I guess, CIRMC, you just have to put in your card and then.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Approved.
Does Freddie have to voice his,
It's,
does Steve have? to
Oh,
voice his-
sorry. Steve,
Yes,
did you vote
I
on?
approve. Okay, I approve. Yeah,
Okay, sorry. I forgot.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the November. At the end of November, our total checking and savings was $811,000. We have not received the taxes due yet. So those will be coming in mid-December. I think we are looking for approximately $370,000 between Monroe and Brown County for the taxes that will be coming in. Our total assets and liabilities are at $1.5 million. Our long-term liability is $975,000, and that is the bond from the first sediment dredging project. In November, we did have some expenses. Income was down $3,700, which is to be expected in November. And then for the actual expenses, we had expenses of $392,000. $317,000 of that was for the dredging project. That was the last three billings that we had. And then $40,000 was our bond repayment. And then we had an expense of $4,700 to run a new water line to the gatehouse. So that was the bulk of that. 392 was between the dredging, the bond repayment, and the building and grounds expense. For the taxes, again, we have about $370,000 coming from Monroe County that we have budgeted, and approximately $27,000 I have budgeted in the cumulative conservancy fund. Our total income under budget right now is $393,000, so we will hit that income. A big chunk of that, which was offset, we did have the eclipse event, which we budgeted pretty high for, but we actually brought in $27,000 in interest between the high yield checking account and our bond. So that really helped offset some of that, and it was nice that we were kind of in that high interest rate environment there. So it did bring in $27,000 in interest. Are there any questions on those financials? All right, I will move on to the November reported claims. The amount is $382,829.38. $317,675 was the dredging, $4,700 for that water line repair, and then $40,850 for the bond. If there's no questions, I would seek a motion.
Motion, someone?
I'll make a motion.
and I'll second.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, we'll have. the
There is just one. I had to go back and look. So the lower unit, that's for the small barge?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And that was just shipping on that, that lower unit. went
No
bust
more
on us.
questions, no more discussion.
It was nice. That was replaced under warranty,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve?
aye,
Okay, no opposed, so motion passes. Okay, moving along, it looks like we're gonna hear from Lance on our insurance update.
Thank you, Les.
Okay, thank you.
Back at the top. Sure, this so Steve can see.
Again, it's good to see a lot of people again. Those that are new, my name's Lance Everly. I've had the privilege of serving as the insurance representative for the Conservancy District. I think it goes back almost to its inception. And wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about the insurance program and the upcoming renewal this year. As many of you may have known, especially if you're getting some of your homeowners renewals and such right now, the insurance industry is probably in one of the most difficult marketplaces I've seen in the past 20 years that I've been in the business. Been a combination of things that have finally all caught up to it. Obviously, the storm activity we've seen in the state has been, very significant. And of course, inflation and the cost to repair anything nowadays has gone up. So, overall, as the insurance carriers right now, really throughout, are feeling the impacts of it. And kind of put it in perspective, one of the carriers I represent, which is Indiana based, has been doing insurance in the state of Indiana for 140 years. And they said there are 3 top weather-related claim events in their entire history have occurred in the last 18 months. So the weather is changing, and certainly we're seeing the impact of it. Just got in today, and we did get the renewal numbers in for the upcoming program for the Conservancy. So that's what I'm presenting to you today. And we've been basically working through a program through Bliss McKnight. They do have a specialty kind of program that fits the Conservancy District very well and gives us a lot of the special coverages that we need. But the good news is overall, which I don't get to say that too much this year, is that the overall renewal premiums, have come in pretty flat. The main increase that we really saw this year was on the umbrella. We currently do have a $3 million umbrella policy, and that went up about 5% overall compared to last year. But that's actually still below what the industry averages are right now. We're seeing umbrella rates go up about 10%, on average right now. But really, as you can see, really everything else is really at or slightly below, what we had, last year, including the commercial package, which is the property and the liability. The auto stayed the same. And basically the directors and officers policy is still under a 3-year policy with Cincinnati Insurance Company.
Can we stop you at any time?
Yes, please do.
So officers and staff
Mhm.
covered. So
Yep.
currently we have $811,000 in available cash in banks right now.
Mhm.
And so we hire an employee,
Mhm.
Adam sends him to the bank and he takes all $811,000 out of the bank. We're covered.
Covered up to 100,000. That's the current limits that we have.
All right. Thank you.
That being said, nobody has access to the accounts except for myself and.
Notice I did not.
So what else does that cover us for?
The employee dishonesty.
Okay.
The coverage he's referred to is what they call employee dishonesty. It's essentially your fiduciary bond.
Okay.
What's that? How much is that?
That's the 100,000.
Oh.
That's what I just.
What would be your recommendation?
Generally, it depends. I would definitely. do it,
We're getting, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we're getting ready to do another special tax
Mhm.
on you. And throw another, $500,000 in there, for another dredging project. And that'll take that over $1 million
Mhm.
in readily available cash in the bank. And please answer my question.
Probably the closest recommendation I could give, deals with what they call the ERISA requirements. That is, if you manage retirement accounts and things of that nature. And generally, they say you have to have that at least 10% of what those assets would be. So
Costs us another $100,000.
basically, yeah, you could up it another 100 grand. Now, the coverage itself is not that expensive. That's that $250 premium charge that's built in. But yeah, I would definitely, if you're getting ready for a big fundraising and, and cash coming in, I would definitely bump that limit up, a little bit for you.
So that's under the directors and officers line here.
What he's referring to is what we call the prime coverage.
Oh, okay, so what are we covered under directors and officers? What's that?
Basically, that covers your duty and the staff's duty, kind of in your actions as a board. So basically it covers you.
Liability, I guess. more.
Yeah, liability, any wrongful acts, things of that nature. It covers you basically for the decisions, that you make.
Okay,
And on that crime, would it probably be like an approximate 250,000 to do, or sorry, $250 to do another 100,000?
Roughly, probably a little bit less, but yeah, that's a good indication.
Because we budgeted $60,000 since we didn't have the renewal rate since then, so we do have the money in if we wanted to up that up.
So it's 10% of what we're trying to cover.
Right.
So if we're trying to cover $1 million, we would want to cover 100,000.
That's correct.
But with that, so if we lose $811,000, are we going to get that back from your insurance company?
No, they'll limit it to, the 100,000. That's your limit.
Okay.
It's just, that's the recommendation generally we see.
Our bond is with you as well. Is
Yeah.
that correct? So what's that bond limit?
That's all the same. So when I talk about employee dishonesty, that's basically what we call the fiduciary bond that you
Okay.
have.
All right.
Basically, it's endorsed to provide the same coverages. So it's one and the same. Good question. Any other questions there?
what's ordinance of law? Down at the bottom. It's not, it's excluded, so what is that?
That's basically your building codes. So in the event that if we would have a fire at one of the structures, for example, and you have to come back and rebuild, insurance basically pays to rebuild it to the way it was. It is currently. It doesn't necessarily pay to build it back to code.
Oh,
So ordinance of law is a coverage that you could purchase. To basically give some additional funds if there's any increased expenses to meet code, et cetera.
okay.
But yeah, basically the property is pretty straightforward. They do have an inflation guard, so they did bump the limits up a little bit on that. But basically we do have coverage on all the structures, throughout Riddle Point. And basically we do have a deductible there of about $500, overall.
Okay.
Basically, Mike mentioned the crime coverage. Again, that's kind of what the fidelity bond is. We got that set at about $100,000. And then basically the equipment's down to about 441,000 for the stuff that's on the water. So that's basically your barges, your motors, anything that basically goes on top of the water. And then we have basically some mobile equipment, about 8,700, that's the gator. And then we have about 18,000, covering the dock itself. The liability is really kind of the key coverage. Again, this is where the program with Bliss McKnight comes into play. We do have the $1 million liability policy per occurrence in aggregate. And then, of course, Cincinnati provides another 3 million umbrella on top of all that. And that basically covers, everything from the slip and falls that may occur, on the park to, a wrongful death type of suit. In addition to basically the errors and omissions from being a kind of a municipal government entity, it does cover that as well. It does cover civil rights. So if you do get any claims of civil rights, that's also included in the coverages as part of that coverage as well. And one of the unique features, through the Blitz McKnight program has to deal with the dam. It does not exclude coverage on the dam. So if you would have a dam failure and basically people file suits for negligence, you didn't take care of it, et cetera, that is a covered cause of loss, both under the general liability as well as the umbrella. And that's been one of the key things that's very unique to this program. Most of the other programs we looked into would exclude that coverage.
But it wouldn't fix the dam, it's just for the liability part,
It's just for the liability, that's correct.
so we'd still be on our own to fix it. if there
For the
was a
fixing,
problem.
yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
We did talk a little bit about employment, our directors and officers, that is at $1 million. That's currently with Cincinnati Insurance. It is under a 3-year policy, so actually it doesn't renew until 2026. And then basically the auto, we have, the standard coverages of $1 million for the liability. In addition to the comprehensive and collision deductibles are $250 and $500 respectively. Yeah, the nice thing, Cincinnati kept the umbrella in. That's another area in this market that's been a little bit tough. But they kept at the full $3 million. Basically that sits over all the other coverages of the GL, including the dam exposure as we talked about. And worker compensation, basically that just covers any workplace injuries for any employees, basically providing medical bills, rehabilitation, any disability that would occur. That is based off payroll that we have written down there. And basically pretty straightforward statutory coverages on that. We are working through a claim right now. So as noted there, the mod factor is a 1.35. So work comp actually is very unique in insurance. It's what we call experience rated. So the state actually does compute what they call experience mod based on the claims that you file. So if one's average, if you're below 1, that means you're doing better than what the industry is and you get some credit. If you're above 1, they basically, you pay a little bit more for your insurance due to the claims that are there. And we've got 1 more year left. So we hopefully this next year, that's going to go down quite a bit.
So the employee that got hurt, are we still paying for a claim? Okay.
Yeah, it's basically, it's almost a 4-year running cycle. So the claim happens. And then they kind of wait a year before they actually include it in the mod factor to let it kind of mature and get paid out. And then it stays on for another 3 years thereafter. So this is the last year for that claim, and it'll fall off next year and the mod should go down quite a bit.
Will that employee be able to file a new claim?
No.
Okay.
No. So basically the work comp takes care of everything. Takes care of, his medical bills, injury, rehabilitation, any lost wages, things of that nature. So that's all been taken care of.
Okay.
Is the crime coverage excluded from the umbrella?
Crime coverage really is not a liability. It's more of a property coverage. So it really wouldn't be in the liability field. Yeah.
So this workman's comp, was that the one on the dredging?
Yeah.
Incident here a couple of years ago? Okay.
Yeah. Or I think he ran into
The tree
Tree
overhang
branch, yeah.
at North Lane.
Yep, okay.
Also through basically the directors and officers, we do have some cyber coverages built in. Again, that deals with any type of data breach, any type of liability and stuff that you would have on that. And we threw that in a few years ago, basically when you started accepting credit cards. So it would protect against any kind of credit card theft and stuff there.
So if we get hacked and they want $1 million to unhack us, is it that?
We're not have anything to be hacked.
How do we have that set up? Are we like in the cloud, or where are all the old minutes and everything else?
Probably the most secure format that you have, right?
Yeah. So, they're in the cloud and they're backed up on external hard drives too that aren't connected. So.
And then lastly, a couple of years ago, with the starting of the dredging project, we did add pollution liability. So that actually didn't come up until April, but that's included there. So basically, we have about $1 million of coverage for any type of pollution event. So whether it's occurring during the dredging work, basically during transportation, or what they call non-owned disposal sites, we would cover it there. So we have about $1 million for that as well.
Yeah, someone dumped something in the overflow pond. And so we could probably make a claim on that, right? Have you seen the overflow pond?
I have not.
Yeah, you might want to drive by there. We may have to make a claim on that. That's a nasty looking place.
The sediment that's in there?
Yeah, well, everything that's in there.
Well, are you saying there's something other than sediment?
Well, I think maybe we got $1 million coverage. We ought to have it tested.
Well, is it like a different color or something?
Yes, all different colors. Yeah, it's quite a sight. If you've not been by there, you ought to drive by and look at
Yeah, it's probably been about a month or two ago since I've been there, but.
Yeah. it. How would that work? If we filed a claim that there's something in there that's pollution, so you would contact a company probably, right? Go out there and
Come out,
check it
take a
out.
look at it. And basically, I mean, they would, get the recommendations of whatever it is, and how to clean it up. And basically, that's where some of those coverages come in.
No, I've been by there a couple of, we did have the greenest color, which was euglena, which is a eukaryote, not a blue-green algae, which was present just from like the nutrient loading from that sediment. But I haven't seen anything over there recently.
Yeah, I mean, since we're gonna be planting it,
I mean, are you making a joke of putting the sediment?
I'm making a joke, but it is a nasty looking
Yeah, okay,
mess.
but we need to separate that out. So you don't actually have a concern that there was another thing other than the sediment?
I've always had a concern with filling in the pond.
I understand that.
Okay.
But for this conversation, you were making a joke about the sediment. towards the other.
Yeah.
it's really not a concern about pollution.
I'm curious with our insurance agent, what would happen if we filed a claim on, what the pond looks like now.
Yeah.
Before our mitigation or remediation or whatever we want to call it, that's going to happen in the future. But, it's interesting that we have $1 million coverage on it.
Yeah, that was something that we put into play because especially with the dredging, you never know what you're gonna get into per se. And so that way it kind of provides some protection, for the conservancy and such, and especially during transport. Because, the thing about, pollution, it doesn't necessarily, by definition, it's not a hazardous substance. It's basically something that gets out and gets into something it shouldn't be in. So even if a milk truck goes across, the causeway and dumps a bunch of milk in it, that would be considered pollution by the definition of it. So it is kind of, like I said, it is unique coverage, definitely a good coverage to have.
Adam, what's the substance that we thought was in the dredge material that we can't use on the farm land?
Yeah, the old was arsenic on the old sediment transfer, yeah, which is naturally occurring in the bedrock. It's not like deposition or heavy manufacturing in the watershed that we go.
Outside of that, we did make some adjustments to the policy going forward into 2025, now that the dredging operations are done. So a lot of the liability historically was based more on subcontractor cost, for the dredging and the activity that took place. This year, we kind of converted it over to more of a construction code to, as you do the replanting and stuff of the pond and kind of get that going. So that's all already been built into the policy as well.
So now, if I remember right, somebody ran over the pipe and tore up the boat. Was that, but that wasn't on us?
That was on the dredging.
The dredger,
Yeah, other
so
company.
they've dealt with that.
No,
It's where those contracts come in.
that's
very well.
right.
Absolutely. Any other questions anybody has?
I don't have an insurance question. Are you still on the Boys and Girls Club board?
No, I had to step down a couple years ago.
Okay,
Got a 2 and a 6-year-old or a 6 and a 12-year-old, I should say, and I didn't realize basketball was a year-round sport, but I'm finding that out very, very quickly.
So now, are we needing to vote on accepting this?
Yes, yeah, I would request a motion to approve the 2025 insurance agreement with First Insurance Group.
Any further discussion?
The total bill went up, how much year over year?
Just like 400?
About $400 this year, so. it's-
$400, that's
Yeah,
it.
it stayed flat. Yeah.
Considering. So.
Yeah, I've not been able to say that too much this year, so.
Okay. All right, well, we'll take a vote.
Did you get your motion?
Oh, yeah, I guess we need a motion
Well,
first.
I'll make the motion that we accept the insurance quote.
Second.
Okay, now we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye.
aye.
Steve?
Thanks, Lance.
Aye.
Okay, no opposed, so motion passes. Thank you very much, Steve. Or Lance, I mean, sorry.
Thank you.
Nobody.
Mr. Lance, okay. Hey, actually, I do want to clear up one thing that you said, Mike. You said, just to be sure it's clear, you said we're getting ready to do another tax. I mean, we're just keeping what we had, right? There's not a new one proposed.
What and I wasn't at the last meeting, but what I'm understanding is that
Thank you very much.
rather than just with the normal tax rate at 27 cents or whatever it is, we've also instituted a special tax.
It's one tax, a special benefits tax,
Yes.
and the rate actually went down 15% this year from last year. Just from assessed values continuing to go up. So our tax rate actually went down 15% between 2024 and 2025.
So when you say 15% of the 27 cents, 28 cents roughly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
So is it 20?
47 cents total.
Yes.
And then it went down to what, 0.44, whatever 15% below 0.47 was. But so our tax rate did go down about 15% to get us to that same amount of
So
money.
0.43 for both taxes.
Correct.
Okay.
So just for the record, I wanted to be clear that we're not coming up with yet another tax. Okay,
Well, we are, for the record, we are. So when I first got on the board, the rate was 0.27 or 0.28, right in between there. So that's the standard tax rate. Now, whether or not that's gone down 15%, I don't know. I'm no longer the treasurer. But when we're taxing individuals 0.43, that's an additional tax over the 0.27.
It's not, it's the special benefits tax for all of it. And we kept the request the same, but there's no additional tax. It's a special benefits tax. And the monetary requests remain the same as last year.
We would just request a fixed amount. Okay, and then, so that gets figured out on everybody's bill, what that would be, and that the percentage was whatever it was, and now it's gone down a little bit because the bill went up.
But the standard tax rate for the Conservancy District is 0.27 or.
There's not a standard tax rate
It's not a
because of what we
fixed thing, though, is it?
request.
Yeah, well, I understand budgeting. I mean, more than people understand. But we are requesting more than what we have in the past.
We've done the same for the last 3 years or so.
Yep, you're right, for the last 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But prior to you getting on the board,
Right.
it was never this, what we're collecting now.
Right, the year I got on the board, we essentially doubled it.
yeah, but your
Thank you.
statement
You
was,
said doubled it.
Yes,
I say doubled it, and
yeah, it's just that your statement led me to believe like, oh, there's gonna be yet another tax coming up. Well, there's not.
Yeah.
It's just an extension of what we've done for the last 3 years.
right.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
And it will sustain our program going forward. That's
Right.
the cool
Okay.
part.
All right, so we will now move on to the approval of the agreements for 2025, and there is a long list. If I recall, I think last year we did them all.
Yeah, we can do this as one vote. The agreements all pretty much remain the same, just updated for our 2025 fees and charges. The only agreement that's not in here, which we bring back in January, is the sublease agreement. And that's because we're working with the city attorney in that new development ordinance, specifically regarding removal of trees and such. So we want to try to capture that language and really try to take the conservancy out of being responsible for removing trees in sublease areas for vacant land. So we are working with the city attorney on that, and we'll be bringing that back in January.
Okay, so everything else pretty much kind of the same
Correct.
as it was? No
Well-
significant changes?
Being a geek that actually looked through all that, there are 3 places where you've got errors. And all of them have to do with fees that were not really updated. So like, for instance, on page 85, it says $700, in parentheses, $725. So I mean, they don't match. I can give you these if you want to.
Yeah, you can-
Pass those down.
I can get,
Those will have to get fixed before we.
now we can approve them pending review and making sure they're with the current 2025 fees and charges.
Like, I mean, could we vote on it pending or?
Yes.
Assuming with the understanding that these clerical errors will be fixed.
Correct.
One more correction that I'm trying to find is Angela Parker is no longer Carmen Parker PC. And I can't find her in here. She's opened a new office on North Paganelli Law Group.
Mhm.
And so that's not, in J, we would have to change that to the Paganelli Law Group instead of Carmen Parker. I don't know who she left, but her and Greg Bowman, which I thought Greg Bowman left her
I think Carmen Parker got bought by.
Paganelli. Okay, so she still has an office in Bloomington and their main office is in Indianapolis.
Or she still does, they do still have an office. in
Okay.
there,
Yeah, this just says 10401 North Meridian Street, Indianapolis. Okay, which is actually Carmel. But that's J, so, but I would make a motion to approve all with the amendments.
I will second that.
Okay, we will take a vote on that. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Steve?
aye,
Okay, looks like there's none opposed. It passes. I did aye too. Sorry, forgot. Okay,
All right.
move to the manager's report.
As a follow-up from last month, I have met or been speaking with Alice Michael with the Brown County Community Foundation. And the Community Foundation actually in their language does allow donor restrictions for donations. One of the discussions that we've been having is how to like put that into functionality. So I'd like to meet with probably you and Malcolm to see how we want to break that down. What we don't want to have happen is essentially somebody's like, I want to donate this money for this 15-foot stretch at the back of a channel and you functionally don't have that money available.
That's
Kind
not
of
what
looking
this
at
is
whether
about.
that would be like Solomon Harbor area, the Chitwood channels, like something functional to where we can do that. So we're gonna be discussing with that. And then we've talked with Alice about actually, once we kind of get these functional breakdowns to make sure we can utilize this money to do a resolution from the board in January, kind of stating what those would be. And that's really to allow the restrictions, but keep them.
So, and I'm glad you brought this up because she asked me and I didn't. So when we want to use money for Solomon Harbor dredging out of the Brown County Enhancement Fund, does that come here first for a vote?
Yes, the board has to, I think with, when we took it from the Monroe County, we passed a resolution requesting those funds.
Okay,
Yeah, and we need to, we can always add with an additional amendment, but we should add that in prior to doing that for the receipt.
and you know, because there's going to be a significant amount of money being put in, for example, Solomon Harbor dredging. And that's why, and a great conversation. I appreciate you giving me her information. She's a very nice lady. And so this is good. This is good stuff. So yeah,
I see what's going on. Okay.
so yeah, and so you wouldn't be, you would point out a line or whatever you would name yours. And because dredging is going to continue at the east end of the lake. And there's in perpetuity, I think you said. So that's great. I'm on board.
Yeah, it was in their language and they said they do allow the donor restrictions and they will.
So you are creating the ability for like people in Eidolon to donate to the Brown County Fund with the intent that it go toward dredging and that.
We have confirmed that the ability exists.
I see.
Yeah.
To Point Eidolon, not the 15-foot stretch in front of
exactly.
Louis Boathouse.
So that's what we're talking about, the functional, so you can't,
I
like,
see.
I'm gonna donate money and I want, between these two houses, you always have to start at the beginning of a channel. So yeah, getting to kind of those functional breakdowns.
Got it.
And then creating that, but they do allow the donor restricted funds there, so it would be a way for Solomon Harbor to donate money, get the tax benefits, and then ensure that that money is going to their specific area.
That's great.
So we'll be moving forward with that, and I'll be in touch to kind of figure out how we want to break that down.
Just like you said, and we could do Chitwood as one area.
That's kind of, and that's a
Sunflowers
clear
another area.
break.
And yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Since we have the largest district and,
Yeah.
you know, two separate areas where, I don't know if you call Point Idlewild in another section of your area, two separate areas.
Well, we got the east side and the west side.
There you go, east and west.
But
East
yeah,
versus
so we'll be in
west.
touch with that, and then the plan would be to, at the January meeting, to go ahead and codify that with a resolution.
It sounds good.
So.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have the 2025 board election update. And District 1, David Carrico will be running uncontested, so there will not be an election for District 1 in February. For District 4, we have Steve Freeman and Steve Warner. So we will have an election in February. We have requested kind of a 400-word statement from the candidates that we'll put in constant contact so they can have communication and kind of put out a little blurb to send out to the freeholders. So I hope to have that out by the end of the year. And then we will be sending out the election statements with the notice, the absentee ballot measuring and all that. We are not legally allowed to send that out more than 30 days. That will come at the beginning or come in January, whatever 30 days before the election is. So we'll be sending out those notifications and the postcards for absentee ballots. So we will be having an election in District 4.
Can I ask a quick question? Didn't Michael Klitzing say he was going to make some recommendations to make some changes to the voting process? And that never, and then he did, at the next meeting, he was he said that he didn't have time to get it together before that meeting, and then that kind of got dropped and nothing ever happened.
That was the recommendation, was to allow the candidates to provide a statement to be sent to the freeholders. The
Well, I
rest,
remember him saying a couple of things he was recommending is what he told me, but then nothing ever happened with it.
I think that's why he's not running anymore.
Yeah, the statement is what was recommended, we'll be implementing that. The rest is codified, and we have to follow those processes.
So, but Michael will, or you will, someone will reach out to freeholders on the lake like they did last time with Lance and Pam and somebody else I didn't even know. Is that right? Do you do that, or does Michael do that?
Michael will do that, yeah.
Okay.
For the clerks.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, yeah, Michael will do that. All right, next we have.
When are the hats gonna be available?
Well, it's not hats this year.
Oh, no.
I like.
Is your neck cold there, Mike? So January 11th, third annual 11 Rock
hats?
Polar Plunge. No, you don't, did you get a hat last year?
I ordered a hat, never got one. That's true, true story.
I'll
Adam
look at
knows.
that and I'll make it right if that's,
Thank you.
um,
And I'll buy a scarf.
but yes, we have Lake Lemon scarves to show off your Lake Lemon pride and keep you warm after you come out of the cold lake. The first year, it was pretty temperate. Last year, it was very much a polar plunge. So we'll see what's in store for us this year. We'll start, signing people in around 10:30. We're gonna jump in the lake at 11. We'll have fires in the shelter house. It should be a good time, so spread the word. Steve, I can probably bring a scarf around. I don't know if you have many people coming in these
We get a
days.
few, I mean, anything to
Yeah.
advertise it.
Try to advertise it, but there'll be some hot cocoa, warming fires and a good mood, from all. So I hope we have, at least the attendance we've had in the past 2 years. We're trying to find some new routes of, marketing to try and get some new participants. So we'll continue to, go down those paths.
Does one have to jump in the water to buy a scarf?
No, one does not have to jump in the water to buy a scarf, but they do look better once you have been in the
They'll buy a
water.
scarf if they're.
You can register at lakelemon.org. There's the flyer on the front page. Just click on that. It'll take you through it. You can make a donation as you please, but anything over $35 will come, per $35, you get a scarf. So we've had a few people already register. We hope to see even more.
I think the goal is just to kind of do a different implement every year. So here in 5 or 6 years of people showing up in their full winter Lake Lemon garb at the event, so. Probably turned
So
out.
do you have hats? Because you said you'd make it good. Do you have hats?
I think we might have one from last year still.
So I'll give you $70 for a scarf and a hat. I can do that?
We gotta make sure we have
Double
that.
check we have a hat.
Let me know. Let me know.
Okay.
I've been on the board 10 years. That don't mean nothing.
I'll buy your hat.
Thank you. You have a hat? Karen wants a hat.
I don't wear hats,
Thank you.
I'm too short to wear hats.
All right, and then finally, we have a short causeway sublease. This is for Tanya Stacy. They live on South Shore Drive. Let me kind of pull up the map here. It's not one of the share. So I have another sublease request for South Shore Drive. This is a property kind of up the hill a little bit from South Shore Drive. I've spoken with the residents of the lake. They are eligible for a sublease. We have notified them of the lack of parking in that area. They stated that they will not need parking and can walk down to the dock area. It's kind of the split on the causeway is a little bit towards the western sides between the district. So I've reached out to Brett regarding the sublease. We still have plenty of room. These guys would go down closer to where the old IU ski dock was.
Or take it.
Or taken, if they decide to abandon that dock. So. Any questions or?
I didn't have any objections to it. It's wide open space. There's already.
This is the neighbor of Sarah Herb. We did that like 2 months ago or September, I believe. So that was placed next to this one.
If Brett doesn't have a problem with it, you want to make the motion?
Yeah, motion.
Second.
Okay, we'll vote on that. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Steve?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so motion passes. Approved.
And that's kind of all I got for right now.
So before you adjourn, just, I caught on tape just a little bit of discussion on reducing the amount of meetings throughout the year. I didn't know if that was something you wanted to talk about tonight or wait till we had a full board.
Yeah, that's what Michael decided to push that to January. So essentially looking at reducing in the off season, but still keeping the summer meetings at the park there. So not reduce the summer meetings at the park, but then reduce kind of the off season meetings.
And you've got the audio equipment and the video equipment that if we wanted to move the meeting somewhere, do you?
I don't have video equipment, but
Okay,
yeah, that's fine. That's stuff that I own. I think the Conservancy ought to own their own,
yeah,
be able to use it for weddings and stuff too if you need it.
yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, we're gonna reduce the amount of meetings. It takes me 30 minutes to get here. It would take me 6 minutes to get to the shelter house if we heated and cooled it. You know, or Boys and Girls Club or whatever. I mean, it's just a thought, not that, you know, but
Yeah, that will be up for discussion at the January.
how long it takes you, Steve, to get here, but probably longer than me. All right, thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes our meeting. The next one is January 23rd, 6 PM here. Okay,
Say 23rd?
yes, yep, January 23rd. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Steve, I bet you want to adjourn, don't you?
Yes, aye.
Okay.
49 minutes, that's, I don't know what our old record was, but that's.
Okay, meeting's concluded. Good, thank you, everyone.